What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the Bucher's Bachelor Boys Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host Kyle. Kyle, what's up, buddy?
What's up? Good to be back. Happy
Yeah,
to see you guys and be talking baseball again.
the fans have been clamoring for you, Kyle. They're going to be so pleased.
The villain has returned.
Yeah, exactly.
The losing villain.
They've also been clamoring for Eric. What's up, Eric?
Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing?
Now we're excited to have you, man. It's been a good start to the year for you.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm trying to rein in my chaos and not try to do too many. I did, as everyone saw, I did, make a trade. Was part of the reason why because I was coming on the podcast potentially. Yes, that's basically the reason. I got a link today. Knew I had to bring some fresh content and everything. So
Well, all publicity is good publicity, so we'll be sure to give you some flowers on this. But overall, how do you feel then? Because you've had a good ascension here. I mean, so far, I feel like when we did this a month ago, the last one, not that much has changed. I feel like Griffin is probably the one who's moved the most in either direction because he was definitely buried around nine. Now he's been really strong for about a month. Everybody else, I mean, I feel like Eric, you and me, and Zach, and the handful of people around there jumped 10 points ish up or down given the week, but it hasn't changed much at the top. Mark and Brendan staying close. You're Captain Brendan a little bit. These last couple of days, especially, you made Acuna has had such a good last week. That's helped a ton.
yeah, Acuna's had, I think, in the last like 7 games, he's had like 5 home runs and 5 stolen bases, which is exactly what you want to see from a guy like him. But I mean, I kind of feel like looking at the standings, it's kind of tiers have kind of emerged. Like you've got like Mark's at the top, but I do feel like Brendan and I, when you look at just team wise, I do think we're going to kind of converge into like a top three, and you've got that like 5 to 6 team kind of tier, and you Griffin, like you kind of all within. I mean, it seems like every single day, 4 through 8 is like just like doing all types of shuffling and everything. I think that's kind of like that main second tier.
I love the polite shade. Eric is throwing polite shade
Yeah,
at
dude. I
Nick.
mean,
You're clomping you in with Griff, the Griff clomp. That's
yeah.
that's
Me and
light
Griffin are
shade.
unlisted allies, I guess. Hope to
I love it.
ascend. It's. I mean, it's funny. I bring up Griff specifically because I was looking an hour or two ago, and I was thinking it's weird how little this feels like it's changed to me over the last month. Because I was looking at it from then to now. Do you guys want to wager a guess what the top 5, 6 spots look like over the last 30 days? If you've looked, you'll know it. But
Oh, in our league,
yeah, just roto standings since May 3rd.
I bet I bet Griff, Brendan, and you two.
You've got four of the top five. Yeah, not exactly in that order.
Okay.
I guess
Yeah,
one and two. Do we just read it to you? Or
I think I definitely think Griffin's probably one. Or he's either one or two, and Brendan's probably the other one. And then I feel like it's probably me,
Throw
Nick, and then I don't know who the fifth would be. But I mean Griffin's. I mean Griffin. I know at least 15, 20 days ago he was sitting more in that like 8, 9 range, and now he's flying up the boards.
Acuna's 4 or 5 home runs in 5 or 6 days help, and I Zach could be in there. I know Tatis only had 1 home run, but I think a couple of his players have been doing well, so maybe he's in the mix.
yeah. So the last 30 days, you got Mark Minnis leading the way at 122 points. Second place is Brendan with 121 and a half. So they're half a point off over the last calendar month and a little standoff there.
Wow.
Then you have a pretty decent drop off. You've got I'm at 104.5, Brendan's at 102.5, Eric, you're at 101, Zach's at 97, no one else is over 90.
So
So
we kind of nailed it, right?
yeah, besides Griff basically just climbing his way up into that money-ish area, nothing much else has changed. You want to guess who the worst team has been? It's pretty easy, probably.
Charlie.
Yeah. And before we start doing the trades, I have a mailbag segment from Charlie. Let me find the email and I'll read it to you guys.
Hell yeah.
Real quick, while Nick, while you find the email, Kyle, I do love your strat. Like, there's a small part of me that like the rebuilding, like just baseball, just like fan of like just the full tank mode, just going into full prospect. Like, but the funniest part is that because you only have prospects and then like good keepers, like you're not going to finish last. Like your average, your OPS, your ERA, like all that stuff is going to stay. Like you're kind of a little bit of a spoiler in the sense of like you're taking away big points from the top teams because you're not going to fluctuate much.
That's true. Not to get too into it, but I remember genuinely asking Nick and Griffin for just an ethical, I guess, ethical advice in terms of what I should be doing in the league, Eric, because I am trying to fill out my roster to start players, so it's not like I'm trying to spam or,
Mhm.
ruin the league. But you're right. I am kind of blocking OPS and maybe a couple of other stats. So Griffin and Nick were saying, yeah, like you're allowed to punt a year, right? But you really do need to set your lineup. So that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, I mean you lead the league in OPS, and then your ERA and WHIP are both fifth. So like
Yeah.
you're holding crucial points from people, which is it's fun to see it because like everything else is just 14 1 1.
I feel like the pitching stats are so fickle, but I was kind of surprised to see OPS stick around as long as it has. So we'll see what happens. I think more of my prospects will get called up, and we'll see that fall a little bit. But I'll probably still be middle high of the pack in OPS if I had to guess.
I'm looking right now, Kyle. I think I gave this stat in the last pod because I think literally the day we did the last one at the end of April, start of May, I had just gotten like one more home run than you to get past you in home runs. Yeah, this is fun. So I have 1,021 games played. That's the most. You have 504. So I have more than double your games played. And in home runs specifically, we are separated by 20 home runs.
Perfect.
That is
That's 20 too many. I like being close to you.
that is disgusting. But yeah, okay, here's Charlie's mailbag. So if you guys didn't see today, Charlie picked up Jeremiah Jackson. Great ad, Charlie. At 12:16 after waivers had run, I got this email while I was working. The email subject just says help. And it's from Charlie Brown to me. Uh, here's the message. I am in Ecuador and my phone isn't allowing me to make a move. After he had just made a trade with Eric, also, I was like, what? But I want to drop Jimenez, which he had already done like an hour and a half earlier, and add Jackson from the O's as an outfielder. If I don't get Jackson, just add whoever you want. Thanks. So I saw that like 30 minutes after he sent me, and I was like, oh, God damn it. I don't want to have to make a decision for him. And then I looked at the moves that already happened. I was like, what? Why did you send me this?
So my question is, I've been trying to sell Taj Bradley to everyone in the league. So I'm sorry for anyone who got a bad offer, but in my discussions with Charlie, he told me that he was going to the Galapagos. Charlie and I would talk all the time now since the Machado trade. He's always checking in on me. We're besties.
Yeah.
So is it Ecuador or is it the Galapagos? Because I feel like maybe Charlie's feeding me bad info here. I
Well,
thought we are closer than that.
the Galapagos is off of Ecuador, so you have to go to Ecuador and you take the boat to the Galapagos from Ecuador. Right? The Galapagos is Ecuadorian territory.
There you go. So I'm not fancy enough to know my Galapagos from my Salapagos, so I don't know. Thank you, Eric, for real real world information.
He was getting Galapagos down in Ecuador, I guess, today. He'll be in Galapagos maybe later. I would assume, given your guys' relationship, he wouldn't lie to you.
Good. All right, we're good, Charlie. Thank you.
Also, now I'm just finding out that Kyle's just sending around Taj Bradley trades, and as the resident Twins fan, I didn't even receive one. I feel kind of jaded there. I feel like I at least got to send out a Taj offer.
That's kind of insulting. So Eric has no one you want, Kyle?
Colson Montgomery. I know we'll talk more about that,
He gone.
but I'll take Belly. Belly's pretty cool.
I don't need pitching that, but honestly, I need to. This is also just saying out the league. I would gladly trade an outfielder for an infielder because I have 7 outfielders right now that I have Bellinger, Buxton, O'Neill Cruz, Kyle Tucker, Acuna, Nimmo, and Soler. Like Soler is my outfielder 7 right now. It's too outfielder heavy right now. So
We should talk after the pod then, because I feel like I consistently trying to trade someone somewhere. It's a little bit better now that I got Kerry Carpenter back. But yeah, I feel like I've been hurting at outfield. You and I have been probably stealing from each other, it sounds like.
yeah.
All right, let me know. Can you guys see the transactions?
Yep.
Yep.
So our last one down there was the Bazana and Lindor trade me and Raymond made. So we have this. We get to start with a bang here. Kyle Harrison, Ryan Waldschmidt, Connolly Early, and Hunter Green leave Brendan's team. This is a three-team trade. So he gives up those four. Griffin gives up Mackenzie Gore, Seiya Suzuki, Ramon Laureano, Jeremy Pena, and Raymond gave up Miguel Vargas and Jake Latz. And then Griffin gets Harrison, Waldschmidt, Early, and Vargas. Raymond gets Pena and Green, and Brendan gets Gore, Seiya, Laureano, and Latz. I could read it four more times. It probably still wouldn't make any fucking sense unless you're looking at it too. Hopefully, you guys can see it okay. Eric, as our guest, do you feel like anyone really did well here?
Yeah, so I had to create a flow chart to make sure I saw who exactly was coming in and who's going out.
Yeah.
I will say for Zink, that's Raymond, right?
Yeah.
I will say I do like, he's obviously, pretty far down the season. I do like his strategy. If you look at his IL right now, he's got for a total of what would be keeper cost of like $48 next year, Crochet, Scooble, and Hunter Green. I mean, if you want to talk about loading up your pitching for next year, I know pitchers are fickle. It is what they're hit or miss, but if you can get those three guys healthy, you're gonna be in a great spot. And then for only 13% of your budget, having basically three elite fantasy starters, I like that a lot. I like Griffin. I think Griffin and I have talked about Miguel Vargas probably like twice a week for the past month, because I was actually a little upset with Griffin when he made this trade, because I had asked for Seiya the week before and he didn't want Vargas. And then I traded Vargas away in the Scooble trade, and then he ends up getting Vargas through. I was like, dude, we could have made things a lot easier last week. Like, if you love Vargas this much, but yeah. So I mean, I think Raymond did well. I think Griffin did pretty well, and then for Brendan, I don't love it a ton, mainly just because I think Mackenzie Gore is just, as someone who's ridden the Gore volatility train, it's not fun. It is very annoying.
Yeah. Kyle, what'd you think?
It's funny. I'll do the one quick soapbox here, not to say, get off my lawn, not to be the grumpy old guy, but
Do it.
the three-way and the four-way trades, I don't quite understand the novelty of it. Maybe it's like the trader in me. I want to be the broker. I want to be in between. You can feast on the in between. Why do you want to do a three-way trade when maybe you could go out and you could, trade for early and then spin early for what you actually want? So I think that's a way where you can gain more value, but I think it's fun. So I'm not actually complaining. I mean, how many people are in leagues that do these types of four-way trades, three-way trades? I think it's cool. But I did just want to call out that little opinion that I had, because I've never done one of these trades, and I probably won't do one myself. But in terms of looking at the values, I tend to agree with Eric. I will say the first time I looked at the trade, I thought that Griffin was maybe on the losing side of the triangle, but Vargas has just continued the meteoric rise. I'm really impressed by Vargas. Um, that might be kind of the core of the trade long term, Vargas and his keeper value. So I think for that reason alone, maybe Griffin. I do like Hunter Green. I think there's some uncertainty with the injury. We'll see what happens. And yeah, I feel like I'm just regurgitating Eric's point, but Brendan is obviously going for it. I don't want to undermine what Seiya can do, because Seiya could be the best player in the trade in terms of this year. So I think he's putting his chips in, and that's likely what it was for Brendan.
Yeah. That's a good sort of thought exercise. I feel like because I kind of did what Eric did here, where I flow charted it out to see who's actually, like, how does it actually impact each roster. I feel like part of it for Brendan is the roster constraints cost wise. He couldn't afford to probably take on too much more. Although it's not like Raymond or Griffin had a ton of expensive guys to give anyway, so I don't know if it mattered that much. I just do know he was close to the limit here when I talked to him about Hunter Green a month ago.
Good point.
But
We
it's
should.
tough because I was going to say I don't think I felt this way a month ago. I'm sure I probably didn't. But is Vargas just the most valuable piece in the trade?
I think he is.
Isn't that crazy? I think he might be there. Yeah.
I remember early in the season I had Luis Angel Acuna, and I really liked Acuna because his bat speed increased a lot year over year. I mean, his bat speed's terrible now, but early in the season it was up 1 or 2 miles per hour. And I remember Vargas hit the waivers, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to drop on L. I'm not going to drop my guy.
Not in Acuna.
Huge mistake.
I mean,
Yeah,
he every year is owned by like so many different people.
yeah. I mean, Vargas was been all over the place. I mean, I remember I picked him on waivers, which is how I originally he was included in the school trade and everything. And the fun thing with Vargas, he sneaky steals bags, which is
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
he
this year he's really stealing.
yeah, it's honestly like if you look when this trade first happened, like I honestly think Raymond had it dominated because he only gave up Vargas and then Latz, the reliever from Texas, and he got Pena and Green. So like when this trade happened, it's like, oh man, he only gave up that and got two legitimate keepers, but like,
you're
and
right.
now Vargas is, I mean, it just that entire White Sox lineup just is apparently just mashing homers right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're no longer an easy matchup. It's tough. I feel like it's too revisionist to say like I do believe that now because I do. When it happened, I felt like he was probably pretty fair. Like I tried to map it out that day, and I was like, I don't fucking know. I think I honestly probably thought Griffin might have done the best. Um, just because I think earlier on bought into Kyle Harrison being legitimately pretty good. And I feel like he might be the second most valuable piece in the trade too. I don't even know. Like Hunter Green obviously has shown a ton of value before. Waldschmidt isn't not top, but a pretty good prospect. Uh, we'll find out
That
in 5 years, I guess.
that's interesting. Even with the injury, I like Green way more than Harrison personally. That's interesting.
I think it's possible Harrison's top 25, top 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I will say for Griffin also like this also could long term be great for him because all four guys he acquired are going to be cheap next year, and those like all four of those guys could be guys you keep for a total of $30 that are all valuable fantasy pieces, and he's still climbing up the standings. So like he could end up getting a lot of keeper value and still be in the money with because of those guys.
That's so true. I mean, this is the most Griffin thing ever to trade guys who are not expensive. Like Say is the most expensive one he traded. I think. I guess maybe Jeremy Pena. They're both in the 20s. They weren't like crazy expensive. He gets cheaper guys, moves up, and then he'll probably in the next month when we do the next pod be like have traded a bunch of these guys for someone we've never heard of who'll be good in 2 years, and it'll work. And it'll be good, and he'll finish third. All right, we've given it a lot. Any closing thoughts on it? Let's get back to a more traditional Kyle two-team trade. So me and other Nick, Zach's brother, Jackson Holiday, Jack Caglione, and Matt Chapman for Jacob Wilson, Jung Hoo Lee, and Brady Montgomery. Kyle, you go first this time because you like traditional trades. How traditional was this?
Uh, real tradition over here. Let's
Only
see.
Knicks were involved.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I think this is a tough one. We know what happened with Chapman. I still haven't figured out what's going on with Caglione, and Holiday has been a little bit of a dumpster fire and a bit of a mess. Good to see him healthy. We'll see what happens. Um, I don't know. I think this is maybe a bit of a wash. I don't really have any great observations, to be honest. Eric?
Fun.
Yeah, I do. The trade in general, I do understand it. I do like Caglione in a long term sense. I do think Nick, you do lose this trade because just 7 days after this, you did cut Jackson Holiday. So looking back, having the 1 week later hindsight of you having you cut him, I think it's a tough to look back now and see that. Definitely think you lost this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's even worse than that. I cut him, I think, immediately. I don't think I had him for a full day. When I got him, he wasn't ideally what I was trying to get out of it. It was more once I made the trade, I realized I was so close to the financial cap limit that I really couldn't support both Chapman and Holiday. I ultimately leaned to stay with Chapman for a little bit. He's gone now too. So really, it was just for Cags. I mean, Kyle hit it right there. Cags was my main target in this. It was tough because Jacob Wilson just gotten hurt. I like Wilson generally, but my team is so poor, like I said earlier, in power. The move I felt like I had to make. Um, Holiday was not even initially part of it. Is a fun part of this. Nick I think wanted just the way rosters worked out, Lee back in it and said he'll give me whoever he's going to cut. It was going to be Holiday. I was like, all right, I'll take that. So I hadn't really prepared to have that. Then I realized I can't make moves. I think I cut him like that same hour or two afterwards. Jack, good pickup. He one of the ones we talk about later on. I think he spent like 1,200, not 1,200, $120, something like that for him. And he looked okay because he had some natural power. We'll see if he can stay healthy. Maybe he adds third base. I doubt he's a keeper. Pretty unlikely, but he could be useful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like it was a lot to give up just in that Wilson's the best player, in my opinion, in it. It's just also I had my IL full and I needed power badly. I hope Cags' underlying stats, especially this year where they're still so nice, can continue to lead to better outcomes for him. I loved him last year. It hurt giving him away. He hasn't really done that much. Hopefully he does more.
Yeah, honestly, I know personally I need to do a better job checking who gets dropped because I didn't see Holiday get dropped because I actually have been trying to get Holiday for a little bit there. Not trying to overpay or anything, but I need to figure out who's getting dropped because that would have been an easy pickup for me because I have middle infield problems. So
I should have looked better at your roster and traded you that morning, then honestly. Or no, it was the next day. It was before, so I made it at 4:37 in the afternoon this day. So he was on my team for like 12 hours, maybe 24 hours almost. I think it was around 10 a.m. I cut him the next day. I was like, wait, I can't even like adjust my roster because I'm like, I'm either on the cap or like a buck over it. All right. I also made an hour after that trade. I missed having a prospect, so I traded Kyle Manzardo to Brad for Josh Baez. Eric, you know sort of how Brad's mind works. What's Brad thinking with this one?
it's interesting. I like Manzardo. I think he's been disappointing. It seems like, but I honestly, even though I frequent prospects and everything, Baez was kind of an unknown to me. So, I like the Manzardo side, but I'm also he's been struggling. So Cleveland's got a weird kind of roster construction.
So I hate to be boring with this, but Nick, I think the most important part of this trade and the most impressive part is that you did a trade with Brad. Is this the only Brad trade for the year?
I think it's Brad's only trade the last like 3 years.
Yeah, so
I think when he did it, he was like, "This is my first trade in like 2 years and 8 months or something." I was like, "Jesus, what?"
so like what did you have to do? Did you have to like take him out to dinner? I mean, that's the most impressive part that
This is
he
valid.
pulled the trigger.
The question actually. Let me see. What did I say to him? I've talked about trades with Brad before. That I'm sure most people do, and they just never happen.
I mean, I offer Brad I sometimes look back, I think it's one or two times a year, he'll always say no. And there have been several times where I look back and it's a huge win for him if he had taken it. I earlier on I offered him I was trying to get J-Rod from him and I offered Machado, Jordan Walker, and someone else. But I feel like that could be actually a decent trade for him long
Nah,
term.
Brad knew that would suck. That's why he didn't do it. The exact conversation was I texted Brad that day, would you trade Josh Baez in a small deal? I will need to cut someone and have an open prospect spot before tomorrow now. And he said, sure, I'm not attached to him that much. And I said, I will take a look now. What about Baez for Kyle Manzardo? Honestly, that is the best deal we can make. I will accept. And I said, wow, our first trade in a long time, a blockbuster. And he said, my first trade in over 2 seasons. LOL.
You just
Honestly,
caught him on a good day.
Honestly, it makes you seem like he just robbed you. Like if he was the guy doesn't trade at all, and then all of a sudden he's just with an easy agreement. It feels like he.
Yeah, in hindsight, that's probably a red flag, right? If he's impossible.
Yeah, if he's like, I have to take this deal, so I'm getting so much value out of this.
That's so true. Like Brad being unwilling to ever do a trade. It's like if Snap accepts your trade, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, unfortunately, Manzardo has a second half where he wins the AL MVP. We'll forget about this, hopefully. Let's keep it moving off of me here. Let's bang out Jack and Zach special here. Miguel Andujar, Drake Baldwin, and JJ Bleday for Ivan Herrera, Zach Wheeler, and Robert Suarez. So I think I went to you first, Eric. Kyle, what did you think of this one?
I think this is actually an exciting trade.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too I'm used to being the villain, so I don't want to be too complimentary of both sides. I do think this is one of those rare win-win cases. I'm really excited for Jack. I think Drake Baldwin could be a real cornerstone. I think JJ Bleday could be kind of like that new Max Muncy vibe in terms of someone who could continue to become perennially underrated, could be a long-term keeper in the next 2 to 3 seasons. I really like Blade under the hood. I kind of liked him as someone who could break out this year. He wasn't getting a lot of playing time. Now he is. He looks great. So I think Blade might be for real. I think he's a really valuable player. I don't know that much about Andujar, honestly, so I'll throw him out. Herrera has a lot of pedigree. We'll see. Um, Wheeler and Suarez. So in my mind, this is really all about Wheeler, Suarez, Baldwin, and Blade. And Zach is making a push to compete this year, as he should. I think we'll talk about it later on in the pod, but I'm a little surprised over the past month or so how we've seen some of the top end players valued and their trade values quite low. So I think it's actually smart for more people to be buying and trying to compete this year. And so, good job, Zach, doing that. So I truly put this into a win-win. I think it's a really exciting trade. Some good keepers, and obviously Wheeler and Suarez are really important in competing this year.
No bill in there. I feel like we're pretty nice. Yeah. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think I do like Jack's side more, mainly just I think Drake Baldwin's one of those, as Kyle said, cornerstone guy. He could, and he's fairly cheap. I mean, he could be your catcher for the next 7 years, and that power and what's going to be in a good Atlanta lineup for a long time. And Herrera's obviously, he's fairly good himself and everything, but that power from catcher is just, I mean, that you see across the board, the replacement level offense for catcher is just so low. So being able to provide pretty much every stat, including homers at your catcher spot, is a huge, huge advantage. And Wheeler's obviously really, really good. I think Wheeler, I mean, might be keeper value for one more year. I know he's actually has talked about just for straight up retiring after the 2027 season. Maybe he might be 1 year. You might be able to keep him on for about that $45 cost next year. But I think no one lost. But Drake Baldwin is it sucks he's injured now, but he is just fun to watch swing the bat.
Yeah. I mean, I think Drake Baldwin is definitely my favorite piece long term in it. Blade has got definitely, kind of like you said, Kyle, I think a year or two, maybe more than that, if he ends up maintaining these adjustments he's made. I mean, he just had like a 9 home run month, and he's at the minimum. And then Duhar is, I think, usually pretty empty batting average, but he plays third base and outfields. You can use him everywhere. Legitimately useful, great ballpark. Yeah, so low mid 700s OPS. Okay, so far. Wheeler's definitely probably a get for Zach, I assume. That's probably who he was targeting. It helps get Suarez, get some saves going too. And maybe I'm just the high man on Ivan Herrera. I don't think he's that much worse than like the top tier catchers. I think the top tier, if Baldwin's healthy, I don't even know how I would rank them, but it's probably Baldwin, Cal, Rice, and Langeliers, right? Is that the top four? Am I missing anybody in that? I feel like they're kind of their own tier in my mind. And maybe you can take Cal out of it, which is crazy because he's been nowhere near as good. He's hurt too. But assuming all four of them are healthy, it's probably in some order the 1 through 4 if I was doing it, I think.
Basayo has to be in the conversation as well.
He probably should be. I think I'd still probably take those other four over him. But yeah, he's definitely up there. I think Herrera is closer to that, though, just as well as he hits the ball generally. The fact he has catcher back, hopefully he has it for next year too. I don't know if he's gotten 20 games yet. He hits the ball really well. Much worse lineup, though. Baldwin, anyway, though, is the guy I would place the highest value on long term. And then second might be Blade. So it's great for Jack to get some keeper value. But again, I get it for Zach because I don't know, is Zach Wheeler right now close to being back sort of the way you thought of him before the injury? He's pretty much there for me, I feel like.
Yeah, and if you look at it for Zach, he's not giving that much up in terms of the best players injured, right? And then he's giving away a hot Blade.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm with you, Nick.
Yeah.
It's a really good win-win.
It's a solid deal. Let's keep it moving to another solid deal here. Dylan Cruz for Zach Geloff between Nick Strali and Raymond. So what do you think there, Kyle? Would you rather have Dylan Cruz or Zach Geloff?
Yeah, I think one of the things that maybe Raymond is doing, and this is kind of how I think of players, is in peak projections. And so like Geloff, it was a little bit of a blind spot at the time how well he was doing. So I think that's a really great get for Nick. For Ray, I think from a keeper perspective, I think Eric already highlighted some of the really solid keepers that Ray has aggregated in, Crochet, Scooble, and the list goes on. Green, I think. So I think what he's trying to do is just get a player that could be worth $30, get a player who could be worth $40. And Geloff likely isn't that guy. Cruz is unlikely to be that guy, but I think he's more likely than Geloff. So I think that's maybe what Raymond's going for, and I like that strategy. That's really what I've been trying to do. Um, and for Geloff, I think he's hot, or he was at the time. I haven't checked his stats recently. Um, so I think it's probably a good get for a cheaper player. So I don't mind it really for either side.
How'd you feel, Eric? Do you feel like pretty fair deal? Someone got away with one?
Yeah, I do think I like both team strategies here. Geloff's definitely the guy where, if they both end their median, Geloff's going to be the better player. He's going to be a $10 to $15 player for sure. Cruz has that high upside though, where if Cruz can get to that 90th percentile, I mean, he's one of the very few guys in the league that if he can get on base even at a 325 clip, he can steal 50 bags easy. And with how important stolen bases are and how hard they can be to find, he unfortunately has not figured out the bat yet, but he has that upside. And it seems like Ray is, he is going to the full tank commander. So this is the exact kind of guy you want to take the swing on. And if he doesn't work out for the rest of the year, you toss him back in and you rinse and repeat.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you both said it pretty well. And I like the conversation generally about Raymond too. I think it's really easy, and we've said it for years, basically, that pitching is so dangerous to build around. They always get hurt. They're so volatile relative to the way hitters are. But I think when everybody generally thinks that way, there's something to be said for Raymond, I think pretty confidently being the most open to building around like the highest end pitching. Like it probably is a bit of an opportunity. There is more risk with it objectively, I think, than hitting. But when no one else, I think, is willing to value probably the way he is, those guys, it does create, I think, a window to maybe get some extra value out of those trades.
Yeah, good point.
I completely agree. I've noticed, this is my fourth year in this league, and I have definitely noticed the over focus on hitting. And obviously, I talk about, hitting is obviously extremely important and everything. I do think there is some, market inefficiency with pitching. If you can get some really, really young pitchers, I listened back to some of the last couple pods and Brendan talked about, a couple years ago, we made a trade on the last day of the year, and he just tossed Scooble to me, and I had him for $1, and I had to keep him for $6. It's if you can pick the right kind of pitchers, you can accelerate your team so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we see it every year when we do the pre-rankings or pre-draft power ranks on keepers. It's almost always the last few years the best like 4 or 5 when you do calculator values are always pitchers. It's always the Paul Steenses, the Scoobles. Because when those guys ascend, they're rare crochets. They may not have quite as long a shelf life sometimes, but they are always such extreme values it'll project it out at. So, especially when no one else seems willing to do it, I think it's interestingly probably a little bit of an inefficiency, like you just said, for Raymond to do that. Kyle, you don't like it? You're making that face? You don't like that?
No, I'm just getting ready for the next trade. I was planning my attack.
Oh, okay. Let's let Kyle attack them. So this one's Manny Machado for Emerson Hancock and Troy Johnston. This is me and your Uncle Charlie.
It's
Let me have
Manny
it, Kyle. Let me have it.
Manny for a bag of dicks. You got Johnson and Cock. Yeah, but this is actually where what I was going with earlier. So I love trading with Charlie because Charlie and I have been much more successful in that front recently. I've enjoyed chatting with him, but I do have to say, Charlie, I think some of the rules that we've mentioned throughout the pod have actually hurt you more than it's helped you. And so a player like Manny Machado, let's face it, he's having a tough year. I understand that dings his value, but let's put that aside. I think a player with his reputation, and you could even scroll up and look at Austin Riley and the other trade we're going to talk about, players that are A or B level and real stars, I think have more than a bag of dicks in terms of their value. And so Emerson Hancock and Troy Johnston, I think the only reason that you can get so much out of Hancock and Johnson is because of all the salary rules that we've put on. So Machado, he's too expensive for the top players in our league to acquire. Brendan, Mark, all of the players that actually want a Manny Machado today can't have him because he would push their salary over the max. So it decreases the demand for Manny and it decreases the value that you're holding on your team for Charlie. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. Just wanted to highlight that.
No, it's well said. Before we even break down the trade, I do think an unintended consequence we've seen the last couple of years now since that rule that in-season salary cap was added has definitely done that. As someone who sold some last year, has bought a lot of times other ways too. It makes it harder when there's probably realistically everyone's so married to their keeper value. Only ever two or three teams, maybe four or five max early on, willing to truly give up a lot to buy. But when two or three of those ones can't even afford to take on the guy who makes 60, $70 for the rest of the season, it does really, I think, undercut the value you can get back for them because you just have less people who are willing to even entertain it.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Eric? Do you feel like you've been hampered at all the last couple of years? Because you went for it last year and you're definitely contending this year. Do you feel like you've been hampered by the fact that there's the in-season salary cap?
I don't think it's really affected me too much. I felt the sting a little bit last year. And last year I was also just kind of trading like a goddamn maniac at times. So and looking back at some of the, I mean, James Wood should still be on my roster, but he's not and everything. But I don't think it's that impactful. I mean, and looking at this trade and everything, I do actually disagree. I don't know what's wrong with Manny. I look at his Savant page and it's as blue as.
Holy fuck. Up. Oh, easy. Yeah. Motherfucker.
Okay, we're back. Welcome back, guys. Eric, you were just telling us you don't think it's impacted quite as much having the in-season salary cap, correct?
Yeah. So I was So like I haven't felt like it has affected too much. It might be a problem later on this season and everything, but I was more so for this trade. I I I don't know what's wrong with Manny. Honestly, I feel like there's been a lot of higher profile players this year that have had pretty rough starts. Some have rebounded, some have not. But Manny's one of those guys. I mean, he's hitting 171 and like his OPS is so low. I mean, and even that entire lineup has just not. I mean, Tatis hit his first homer of the season. Like it makes like there's some kind of like weird stink with that entire lineup. Honestly, both them and the Athletics, because Brent Rooker's been bad as well. Like there's been a few weird anomalies this year. But I mean, we were just talking about pitching and everything. I think Emerson Hancock is an absolute stud of a young pitcher, and he's going to be as cheap as possible. He's got a nice K rate, and they're starting to let him pitch farther and farther into the games now. I think Hancock's the guy you can build a pitching staff around the next couple years. He's one of my, if I was like ranking my top five like favorite young pitchers, he's right up in there.
Yeah, get fucked, Kyle. It was a good trade.
Yeah, but you guys get my point. I know what you're saying,
for sure,
Eric. I just think I don't know. Manny, in my opinion, rest of season will have an OPS over 700.
God, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right about
that.
I think he'll have one over 750.
Okay, because like the like middle OPS for like the league right now is like, you want to be the top half is like 745. Like he's got to be above that.
Fair enough. I think he'll have an OPS over 800.
Make it 900.
I don't think he'll have over 900. But yeah, like I see what you're saying. I think Hancock is cool. It is June, so but yeah. I don't know. I think Manny's better.
Yeah. And I will say that and Troy Johnson, I mean, that just feels like, feels like the Rockies every year have random outfielder, infielder that's just gonna hits 300 for no reason. I mean, that's more of a flash in the pan to me, but Hancock is the main part of that. But I also like, it'd be interesting to see people's ideas on some of these struggling stars, because like I know I would not pay any like thing for Machado right now. I there's really nothing I would part with on my roster.
I honestly think the next trade is a good segue for this conversation.
I mean, would you trade Kyle Stowers for Austin Riley?
Those are two players who are struggling. So how does that work?
No, it's very interesting. At least Stowers does have some keeper abilities. Only he'll be $11 next year, where you can at least, even if he struggles the rest of the year. But I mean, Stowers is one of those guys where they're amazing their first full year starting, and then
Yep.
you get some more tape on them, and then it just kind of falls apart. And you would think for the teams that are involved, like you hope that Austin Riley is going to start. Honestly, Roman's sitting at 10th in the standings, and like you hope Riley can get hot, and hopefully you can flip him for some. You get the benefit of Riley now, let him get hot for a month, and you can flip him for younger talent. But I mean, this trade is just you hope this just both those guys can just turn it around.
Yeah, trust me, Eric. I agree with everything you said. I just have this intuition that Riley should really go for more than current Kyle Stowers. I see the
Yeah.
keeper value in Kyle Stowers. I wanted Kyle Stowers. I made a couple offers for Kyle Stowers earlier when he was hurt. I just think it's one where, if I remember correctly, when this trade occurred, Stowers was back and he was not hitting well at the time. And I just think there's a bit of uh, I don't know, a misprice on some of these elite players. We'll talk about it more with the Freddie Freeman trade. So sorry to get the early start to this convo on Kyle Stowers and Austin Riley, Nick. But
Yeah, you're good. And actually, just before we move off of it, so I think it's a fun thing for the pod. You guys seemingly disagree, right? Kyle, you think Machado is much more valuable than Hancock and Johnson. Eric, you feel like the Hancock, especially side,
yep,
is pretty valuable, and that probably was a better side.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think yes. I think you could probably have gotten more from Machado, but if this was me and I'm on one of these sides, if I had sold Machado for Hancock, I personally would have been pretty fine with it. And that is just me being super super high on Hancock. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm kind of mad that had my starter spots were all filled up because I would have liked to have had him this year.
Cool. Just want to make sure, because we seldom have ones where we disagree. It's good we have a disagreement there.
Yeah, it is good.
For what it's worth, I'm kind of in between you guys, is why I'm not really interjecting much. I obviously think it helps me. It helps me primarily because I've had far more success this year finding pitching between Hancock, Arrighetti. I've had some other successful streams early on. Just like power, we've talked about. I've said it more than once. It's so bad. I'm praying even Machado can't get his average very high. He can just hit for some power. That's really what I needed, and it made sense to go for it. And Charlie was the best sort of power bat available for me. But back to the Stowers and Riley one now. I don't want to move off of that one. Stowers is interesting because when you guys talked about how good he was last year, he was really good last year. It's weird, though, because I have no idea if he would have maintained it the whole year. And I think he missed the final month and a half or 2 months. He missed a good chunk at the second half of the year. So I don't know if we were just denied the chance to see him slump. I don't know if he would have maintained it and become even more lockable and valuable in our eyes. But between the injury to start this year and not playing a ton the second half, the final couple months last year, he's a super weird, like wild card mystery box kind of thing. And this year, like you said, I don't think he's done that much other than I just know because I have Spencer Strider. He had one game with 2 home runs off him, and that was fun. Don't let him play Strider again. Keep Strider and him far apart from each other. But Riley's a weird one, too. Like Austin Riley is seemingly under the hood gotten a little bit worse each of the last couple of years. Is he just I don't know. Is he just a guy? Is he still significantly better than just a guy? Where do you think he is? I'm not saying that's what I think of him. I'm just not sure how to value him specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a time a couple seasons ago where he was probably a top 25, dynasty asset. And so I think my answer is that he's not that, but I think he's still definitely a top 100 player. And I think even at his current price, I think potentially keepable. I think likely keepable. I think, again, I think it's actually great that Eric and I disagree because it gives us a little bit of content and something to talk about. But I think Austin Riley, especially these two trades, Manny and Riley are both third basemen. The number one player in our league, Mark, that's actually one area he could improve. He doesn't really have third base covered.
But
So
besides this one big trade, he's basically new Brad. There's no trading necessary.
But you get my point. Like I think there should be greater demand for these um, premium positions, especially for players who have had such great success, like Riley and Machado have. So yeah, I personally think Riley will be a top 50 player rest of the season. I'm not too worried about it. Maybe I'm wrong there. I also don't think this is bad for Ray. I think Stowers is a really interesting and compelling keeper. I think my point is just that I would like to see more for Manny. I'd like to see more for Riley. And keep in mind, um, I'm fine with this. I don't have these blue chip keepers, so it doesn't really hurt me personally. That's just my opinion in terms of what I think we should see this season. So I'm just a little surprised by the value.
Yeah, and I will say one further point why I do like the in this trade the Riley side more, and it's also applicable to the next trade is when you've got a struggling veteran like Riley and a struggling veteran like Stowers, a big part of it, and I think is definitely not fully broken down enough, is you have to look at the surrounding offense. Obviously, Drake Baldwin's injured, but Austin Riley is going to be put in a position where he's going to be able to score more runs and drive in more runs in that Atlanta offense versus Stowers. And similar with his next trade, Freeman, like in LA, Freeman is in a much better offense than Vinny is in Kansas City. Like I think when all things kind of seem equal, you have to look at the surrounding environment, and it's just like, and this is what this is a callback to a trade I made earlier in the year, the Michael Bush and Edward Cabrera for Rafael Devers. I kind of viewed Bush and Devers similar for the rest of the season, but I trust that Cubs offense, especially in a windy Wrigley at times, way more than I trust the Giants offense. I mean, the Giants offense, it's been a little better recently, but it's been mainly pretty bad this entire year. So I think being able to their surrounding offense is a crucial part that people can miss in trades. It's more than just the player.
Yeah, that's true. And you made a really funny point. I don't want to gloss over too much back to the Troy Johnson thing. Troy Johnson, you said, is just like one of these random. You're so right. He's just basically Jordan Beck, right? Or like 2 years ago, Doyle, or
Yep.
whoever before. Like, it's so annoying how Colorado does this. And as someone who's had Doyle a bunch the last 2 years, you get the one you're like, okay, this guy's going to work. And then the next year, it's someone new who's completely random. And then as soon as you pick them up like Beck, it's like, oh no, now it's Troy Johnson's turn. So
I
funny.
mean, last year, like Warming Bernabel had like for a month, he was the hottest hitter in baseball. He had like 9 homers in a month, and then he was garbage. Like it just like the Coors effect just creates the most random people.
Yeah.
So true.
So, I mean, for Stowers and Riley, I do prefer the Riley side too. It's not by a mile. I think, given that Raymond and Roman are both out of it, I think it makes it fair in the sense that I would rather, like, if I was out of it, I just would rather have Stowers. I think there's a
Yeah.
that he's going to be useful beyond this year. Not that Riley definitely can't be, but there's probably a better chance of that. So I get it there. I think it's fair. The last part, thing that you said, Kyle, I don't want to interrupt you, that I think is probably true is trying to figure out how you get what you get in these trades, like how Charlie landed on my offer being the one he took from Machado, or how Roman. I'm assuming Raymond went to Roman just because Raymond goes to everybody, instigated this one. And you brought up like Mark Minnis, for example, being someone who probably should be trying to get a third baseman. I am curious, since I'm not Charlie or Roman here, what sort of diligence as far as checking every offer we get was. I know Charlie specifically, for example, had Machado on the trade block, which is how we started talking about him, among other guys like Freeman and Bellinger and some other guys he had on it before he made the trade we did. But yeah, in a situation where only so many guys can buy anyway, it would be interesting to think about how if you don't turn over every stone before taking a trade, maybe you miss out on some value, just as like a concept thing.
I think that's an interesting concept. I was even just trying to make the simpler point that I think people who should and would make offers for these players can't because of the salary cap. That was my overarching point.
I think I agree with you on both points. I'm just saying also, I don't even know if Charlie talked to Mark.
Oh yeah. Well, I think likely not because I think he's unable to take on that salary.
Yeah,
It's like a non-starter.
salary kind of great. Yeah, and then you have to, and the reason it's annoying is you have someone like me who I was wrong earlier, Eric. Sorry, I was remembering in retrograde where I said I cut Holiday the same day. It was a few days later. You're right about that. It's because I made this trade to take on Machado. I couldn't take on and keep both Holiday and Chapman with Machado coming in. And in hindsight, I may not have even made the other trade with Nick, knowing I could have gotten Machado a few days later. So that's a real example of how the salary cap is frustrating once you get up to it. And I'll be curious how, because you mentioned, I agree with you too, Eric. Like it didn't really impact me until now, but now I'm like up close against it, like $20 under right now by cutting Chapman when I did. But I can't really afford to like take on a huge salary without having to make another tough choice.
And we're going on and talking about it. I'm not trying to whine about the salary cap. It's just my intuition that I actually think it hampers the teams that aren't going for it. Because I think that maybe you could get more for Manny, more for Riley, more for Freddie Freeman, even had the salary cap not been there. I mean, let's just look at the pattern here of these two trades in a row. It's Roman. Roman wasn't, and I don't think is right up against the salary cap because he wasn't going for it. He's towards the bottom of the league. Maybe these trades benefit Roman and he's able to be in the money and maybe he sees a rise in our league in the next, couple months. But I think it just makes the league a little less competitive.
Yeah, no, you're not whining about it. I'm kind of whining about it as someone who had to make a tough cut because of it. That's what I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
I'd be in favor of, even though I'm on the one side of being annoyed by it, that it made it harder for me to manage my roster. That's what it's supposed to do. I get that. But the other side of it is probably the more important one, which I was on last year, which is it's frustrating if you're trying to sell, you really can't maximize your value. It's in place to help teams that aren't going for it, is my understanding of why we ever added it in the first place. But it's doing the opposite. It's making it harder for a team out of it to maximize value for its assets that it's going to have to lose them in the year anyway. Anyway, all that said, are we done with Stowers and Riley? You guys feel like it was fair, not fair? Summarize.
Yeah.
It was mostly fair. Yeah.
So what about Freddie Freeman and Pasquantino, a Charlie and Roman special? I love when these two trade.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the same idea as the past three trades, or past two trades. I think that Vinny is disappointing. I'm a little surprised by Vinny's performance. I think he still has the keeper potential that Freddie Freeman does not have. So I think good move. Charlie has obviously made the concerted effort to go for next year. And so, yeah, sell your pieces, get what you can. I think Roman does get the win here in terms of the actual value. We'll see if Roman can capitalize on it and be in the money. I hope he can make a push here. But yeah, I think it's really very similar to the past two trades, especially Stowers, because you're looking at a kind of post-typey disappointment. Vinny had a really solid year last year. You hope that the Royals could do something here in 2026. It hasn't panned out. Freddie Freeman still looks good to me. So I'll take the Freddie side.
Yeah. Real quick, too, I think where my brain's going in real time as we're talking through the last two and this one together is this could be great news for you, Eric, for maybe Griff. If Griff does continue to ascend and decides to actually put some chips in, I'll believe it when I see it. But because I can't really take on expensive players like Freddie Freeman or Riley if they do get moved later on in a month. But if it's just really like Eric and Griffin who can buy, you might get it for pennies, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see a deal like that happen down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a point of I've sold a lot of my young cheap guys and everything, but yeah, I mean, I still do have $130 in my budget left, so I've got some flexibility. But for this trade, I do like the Freeman side significantly more. I was a Vinny believer. He's killing me in other fantasy leagues that I have him in. And I thought the fence is being brought in. It was going to be a good year. I mean,
yeah.
Kansas City is they're having just one of those years from hell. It's just like everything is falling apart. But I mean, once again, I think the Dodgers offense has honestly just been far, far below expectations. And yet it's still a top five. Like Freddie's going to be in so many spots. I mean, he's hitting behind Ohtani and Mookie, and he's got Kyle Tucker protected. Like, he's just going to be in so many spots to provide the counting stats. And like, I think he could have gotten a lot more for Freeman, at least, I mean, a guy with a similar cost, but he's at least performing well. Like, hopefully you hope Vinny bounces back, but I mean, I don't know. I don't love seeing it. I don't love the Savant. I don't love the underhood numbers, but Freeman, I mean, he's gonna put up 100 plus runs, 100 plus RBIs. He's gonna give you all the good metrics.
Yeah, even outside of the metrics, I feel like the way my brain works on deals like this, and maybe it's sort of what I was trying to get at when I was talking about how we feel about Austin Riley, I feel like in my mind, Machado, even if he has like a terrible year the rest of the way, I still do believe I'll look at next year and say the top 50 bat, probably top 40 bat. Just because of all the good equity he's built up in my mind about who he is and what he's been, his age and all that stuff factored in. I'm not as confident about Riley, but I'm fairly confident there. Freddie, I'm pretty confident in. If you're going to take a fairly underwhelming so far relative to expectations first baseman, Vinny did this last year to start before he kind of turned it on, and he's really only had one amazing year. So when he's not a lock to be a keeper, and he'll probably be a fair price or slight discount keeper, I love the idea of just getting the top, 35-ish value hitter as far as just the lineup he's in. I know Freddie won't be a 40 home run guy, he won't be a ton of steals, but he'll give you great counting stats, kind of like Riley would. I feel pretty confident I would rather have Freddie, whether I was going for it or not, just because if Freddie has a good 2 weeks and if Vinny has a good 2 weeks, I think it'll be easier to get way more for Freddie, even at the inflated cost.
For sure, and I think the Dodgers are going to get better. I think they're stuck in neutral right now. They've won 2 World Series. Come August, September, I'd be shocked if Freeman's not putting up a close to 900 OPS with plenty of counting stats. Like once the trade deadline's over, they're gonna rev that offense is gonna be humming, and it's gonna be a bonanza of points.
I think you're right.
All right, let's get to the most fun trade. Probably everybody's saying Jeffrey Springs for Kerry Carpenter. Eric, how'd you feel about that one? Was it the most fun in your mind?
That I love me some Kerry Carpenter. I very much think Springs is one of those guys who just bounces on and off the waiver wire. So anytime you can get a quality bat that you can stick in your lineup for a waiver wire guy, all for it.
Kyle,
Yeah. I feel the same way. I mean, you can platoon Carpenter in our league. It's a daily league. I think Carpenter's really good. I mean, he hasn't been as good maybe over the past year and a half. I don't remember if he got injured or what happened, but there was a time where if you just looked at, platooning him, like he had really elite statistics. So I think Kerry's definitely the winner here.
Good. I like that one. Yeah. I mean, Kerry was hurt, and I think Jack was feeling the IL crunch a little bit.
Yeah.
Springs is probably like a waiver plus guy. I just feel like because he can go 6 innings, like I had him for a good chunk of last month. I think I cut him once, I picked him right back up, even for some tougher starts. I think he's okay. Kerry, I think, is okay also overall, but like you guys just said, I think it's easier to maximize his good days since he'll probably have an 800 plus OPS against righties. And I can sit him the other days. Plus, a lot of my trades, I feel like as we're talking through them, I've just done because I feel like I need the categories. I need power and I need outfielders positionally. So this gave me some flexibility there.
Yeah, and you hope the Tigers, like the Royals, they're in a weird funk, but the offense can still be good, and like Kerry can get hot, he can carry you for a week or so. Like there's plenty of upside even with the Tigers being just trash right now.
From your lips to God's ears, I hope. All right, let's get to another deal with the Tiger in it. This is Jack and Raymond, Spencer Torkelson, Jackson Holiday for Luke Keeschel and Nathaniel Lowe. Kyle, how do you go? What do you think of this one?
I think this is a really fun one. I like some of the trades that Jack's been doing to collect keepers. I think if you stopped the season right now, I think Keeschel would be my favorite keeper of these 4. I think I also like the Raymond side. It's interesting because they both want keepers, Ray and Jack. But I think Ray already has a lot of keepers he likes. So I think that's that peak projection concept that we were talking about. And I think it's that avoidance of the Roman problem that we coined a couple weeks ago, or at this point, a couple months ago, where the Roman problem is if you have too many keepers that are borderline keepers, like maybe you have 20 players on your roster that could be kept, but you're not sure. There's not a whole lot of value in that. It may be helpful to, bring all of your value together in have a couple of players that are keepable. And I think that's what he's trying to do with Holiday and Torque. If one of those 2 hits, it's a win for Ray. It's a dart throw. And I think that could happen. And I think at the same time, Keeschel could be the top keeper. So I think there could be a win on both sides there. That's how I see it.
And Eric, you know the Twins very well. Is Keeschel about to break out? How do we feel about Keeschel?
I don't love Keeschel right now. Savant is extremely blue, and the problem with Keeschel right now, and it's the problem the Twins are having, is that there's going to be a roster crunch. Brooks Lee seems like he's shifting to third base full time now. He's started there consistently. They're opening the gate for Kalen Culpepper to come up to be the longtime shortstop. Where does that put Royce Lewis? Royce obviously has disappointed a lot this year. He's mashing again AAA. It just kind of seems like it. And like Royce is one of those mental guys. Royce comes up. Keishel's not playing well. Keishel could go back down. If Royce then could stick at second base, where does Keishel play? He's not going to play the outfield because they already have Austin Martin as your right-handed outfielder, and they already have too many left-handed outfielders with, I mean, Erod's on the IL and so is Jenkins, but in terms of just top 25 prospects, like Keishel, if he's going to play, he'll steal you bases, but he's another one of those guys of great rookie year, struggling as a sophomore, and just I worry about him.
I'm glad you didn't name the other outfielders. Let's not even knock on wood or do anything, right? Like we don't want to say any other names,
No,
right, Eric?
No, there's another one. He's kind of banged up right now, and I know he hasn't played center field in a while, so we need him to stay at least somewhat healthy.
Yeah. This is a fun trade, like you guys just said, though. I mean,
Yeah.
three Torkelson, I guess, isn't post hype, but guys who like have probably seen their value depreciate from a lot of buzz in the last year or so before this. Like Keishel was super trendy. Holiday previously, before the hamate bone, had a ton of appeal. Torkelson's got good power, but been blah. And then there's just Nathaniel Lowe in there, as he's like, I don't know, 30 plus years old. But he was probably, at the time this trade was made, he's probably the most valuable like on the player rate. But he was really good for a little bit there. He's getting squeezed now a little bit. The Suarez is back. Just because the Reds infield on the corners has been so legitimately just deep and good. So I think I agree that Keishel, it's funny. I feel like Keishel is either going to be the most valuable or the least valuable in a deal where no one's likely to be crazy valuable, if that makes sense. Like Keishel, if he fixes his metrics some, if he actually starts producing some, quickly becomes pretty valuable. If he doesn't, I fear, like you said, like because Eric brought up Royce. Royce is demolishing the ball in AAA, right? Like Royce might come back and maybe they send Keishel down for a month. I think it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 6 homers in 6 games. He's just and it's one of those, and I do like talking about post type sleepers. I mean, Jackson Holiday might be the poster boy for post type sleeper. I mean, he's not even he's not even 23 yet, and like it is unfortunate he's a little more expensive right now. I think he's already at $16 because he's been kept for a while. Like Jackson Holiday, people are starting to write him off, and it's like this guy can barely legally drink still.
Yeah.
Like come on, like I know he's got the name, he had the prospect pedigree, but like. I mean, come on, like he's still so young, and he's still like I still very much believe in Jackson long term.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see how that one goes. Why don't we get to our grand finale here? Eric's move for the pod. Kyle's going to tell you how good or bad it was. Kyle, what do you think about Glaber, Gossman, and Bellinger for Kyle Finnegan and Colson Montgomery?
It's funny, Eric was selling this.
He misses Eric.
It's funny, Eric was selling this trade as just material for the pod because I think this is a really exciting trade. One of the most fun trades we've seen. I would say maybe second only to the 3-way trade. That's hard to beat, but I think this is a really good one. I've admittedly not paid attention to closers, so I don't know if Kyle Finnegan has really done much. I don't know if there's any value there, but the way I see it, it's really Colson Montgomery for the other 3 guys, Glaber, Gossman, and Bellinger. I think Montgomery, I've been more and more surprised the more I've looked at him. I think a while back I was trying to get Mookie from Griffin, and he told me that if I could get Colson Montgomery, he would do a Mookie trade with me. So I was trying to look into ways that I could get Colson Montgomery. And the more I looked, the more I realized I just didn't have a compelling offer for Eric because he was just much more valuable than I had thought. I saw some stat from, I think, CBS that said partway through last year, Colson Montgomery was maybe top 5 in all of majors in power, in home runs. So I think the stat was like starting in June of 2025. It's like Aaron Judge, Schwarber, I forget who else, but Montgomery is on that list, top 5 to 10 maybe. It's really been impressive what he's done. I think, we'll see if this continues. The White Sox have obviously been really hot, but we shouldn't understate the potential keeper value for Montgomery. With all of that said, I actually think this is a win for Eric. I think Bellinger, Gossman, and even Glaber have this kind of bizarre combination of being 3 of the more underrated players in all of baseball. Gossman, I think on the pitching side could be a top 20, 25 pitcher rest of the season. Bellinger has been incredible. I think Bellinger over the past month has been a top 4 or 5 hitter in fantasy. Under the hood, it looks just as good as the results. Like it really seems to be supported. And I think we're talking lineups earlier, pretty good lineup to be in. So I like Bellinger rest of the season. He was actually one where I was targeting as a keeper for next year. I think he has a lot of value. And Glaber, I think Eric will highlight some value in Glaber. I didn't even realize he was coming off the IL, but
Yep.
he's another one who I think actually has a decent amount of value, and especially on a tough position at second base.
Yeah, I agree. It's lame we can't have sort of a debate or tear Eric apart a little bit here since he's on the pod with us, but I like it pretty comfortably for Eric. Close enough going before I move off of it. That is crazy. 36 home runs in 130 pure games. I mean, is he just third base, shortstop, Kyle Schwarber? Is that just basically what we're looking at? Like a 220, 230, 240 batting average with a good 800 plus OPS and a 45 home run bat? Like, that's crazy. He's already just been that. So he's obviously a piece that's hard to give up. But, dude, I think Bellinger's a ton of surplus and probably a keeper next year unless something goes wrong.
Yep.
Great line, but we've talked about the value there. Gossman is definitely, in my mind, well above like Jeffrey Springs, streamer area. He's a guy who goes deep, gets Ks, super valuable, and should still win plenty of games the days he pitches on an okay team. I think Glaber's just a solid throw. Glaber did come off the IL. Glaber is consistently someone the last 2 years is always ranked as someone we should value more than I think we do. I don't know if it's because he was previously such a high prospect and had the highs. We're kind of like just upset he's not that good in our heads. But I think it's a great outcome for you, Eric, because like you said, you still have room to move around the salary cap. You got 3 pieces that help you this year. Montgomery will definitely be missed for the power, but I think you've definitely recreated it comfortably in the aggregate there. Did you go to
Yeah, it was I was looking for I was looking for even just like a small trade just for the pod and everything, but I looked into to Charlie's team and recognizing he's towards the bottom and building ahead, and I had reached out. I forget who I initially had said. I think I had offered him Sandy and Cavalli just for Gosman, just like trying to just feed the water and what he was feeling on Gosman, and he basically told me he wanted to package Gosman and someone else for a high level keeper, and he was interested in Montgomery. And it does hurt to lose Montgomery. As I said, he's just shortstop Kyle Schwarber. I will not miss his 225 batting average. Don't get me wrong. That'll. I'm glad we're not playing points because his Ks would be much worse. But losing that home run capability is going to hurt. But Bellinger in that New York offense is just he's going to be produce all the counting stats outside of homers. His average will be a lot higher. OPS is solid. And then Gosman, trading Skubal, my pitching's kind of fallen off a little bit. I needed that top of the line starter, and Gosman provides that. Sub 1 WHIP, 3 ERA, getting me at least a K per 9. He's starting tonight, and funny about the Glaber throw. And so I threw in Finnegan because Charlie basically said, whoever you're cutting, just throw them to me, just in the trade. So I just threw Finnegan in because that's who I was going to cut on the pitching side. And then I wasn't entirely sure I want to trade Colson. I had him for a while, and I was like, oh, man, it's a lot of power. But I was looking into it. I was like, oh, Glaber comes off the IL today. I was like, oh, I need a middle infielder because I actually don't have – once they trade Colson, I had Meadroth who can play shortstop, but I don't have another middle infielder. I was like, oh, Glaber's coming off the IL. And Charlie was like, I'll throw him in no cost. I was like, perfect. What do you know? Glaber, lead off, first game off the IL, dinger. Love it. First at bat, out of the park. Fantastic. But no, I feel good about this trade. I feel like it shores up the pitching. And, coming into when I was looking at yesterday, I was preparing for the pod, I felt Brendan and Mark were the top 2 teams. And I felt like I was that half step behind, whether you call it tier 1B or by myself in tier 2 and everyone else. And then a 4th and 5th was more tier 3. I think this trade puts me up into that top tier. I think the top 3 teams, provided there's no, chaos and terrible injuries, I feel like this puts me right there to compete for the title.
Yeah, it's a great win now move. And again, it's so you said earlier the 130. So you have salary cap up at after this trade or before this trade?
After.
Nice. So you can still make another big move or two if you want to.
Yeah, I still have some flexibility. I've burned a lot of my keepers, but I still have some pretty good young pitching. That's kind of been helping carry, with Max Meyer and some other guys like that. So
You just
I
gotta
li-
wait too until there's really no one left to buy except for like one or two, and then it's just you can get them for whatever you want. You can give up whatever your streamer of the week is.
yeah,
if Walker Jenkins comes up, I think you could catch a pretty penny for him.
Yeah.
I could, but then my internal Twins fan is gonna be very disappointed in myself. So yeah, actually just bought another. I just bought another Jenkins auto. His prices have gone down a little bit with his injury, so I've been buying up a little bit of Jenkins to hold for that eventual debut day.
I did.
Nice.
So we got 5 minutes left. So why don't we break down? You guys have any takeaways on free agents, ads, stuff like that? I have a few written down I can go to. It's been like a month, so there's a lot there. I can open it up and start scrolling through and give you some.
Yeah, maybe if you scroll through, I don't have any top of mind, Nick.
Set to scroll a ton. So the ones I've got. Well, let's let me pull it up. So I thought Jack got Holiday on May 20th. That was good. He already was able to move him. Edwin Arroyo for Raymond on May 13th was a solid pickup. He only had to pay a couple bucks for him. I thought JP Crawford just in the last couple of days for Raymond's good. He's been playing really well. Probably should be owned.
I thought it was funny, JP Crawford for Jay Crawford, or vice versa.
Yeah.
No, Jock Peterson too for Zach. Dude's been out of his mind the last couple of weeks, hitting for some power. And then honestly, we talked about it already. Matt Chapman going back to New Nick. New Nick wins the trade, man. He got like half the guys back he wanted.
I saw you got Thomas White, Nick. I like Thomas White. He got hurt. His shoulder blew out.
Yeah.
So I think he'll come back this season, and I think he'll make his debut, but good pickup there.
I'm hoping it's soon. He may not stay much longer. I thought it might be, if it was a minor injury, I think he's up like this week, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the only reason I dropped him.
I was hoping Josh Baez a couple days ago had like 5 home runs over 2 or 3 games. And I was like, okay, he'll come up. I just put White on there. And he just didn't come up. And I was like, sick.
Yeah, I missed who got him, but Eduardo Rodriguez has been way better than I thought he'd be this
He has
season.
been nails, yeah.
He's not striking out as much as he used to, but he's sitting pretty with he's got like a 2-2 or something.
He just cooked the Dodgers yesterday. I mean, only 3 strikeouts, but he went up against the Dodgers and held his own too. I mean, the whip's solid. The ERA is amazing. The Ks aren't really there, but he pitches deep into games. Yeah, he just got 2 days ago. He went to Roman.
Yeah, I wonder if he's if the Diamondback staff has like changed up kind of his process, because his K rate is far lower than it has been in the past. But if he's just focusing more on that weak contact, be more of that crafty lefty, it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Every other pickup sucks, I guess. You have any closing words for the league, though, Eric? We got about 2.5 minutes. You want to play us off and tell everybody? I guess you kind of just did that. You're coming for him. So,
yeah, I feel good. We're almost to the halfway point. It feels like, we're starting to see the tiers create. It's if you're sitting, in that 5 to 10 range and you want to try to get to the money, like you gotta go. It's time to go. But I very much would also like the Marlins manager to stop ruining Sandy. I've never seen any manager keep a guy in after he gives up like 7 runs in 2 or 3 innings, and he just keeps him in for 6 more to 6. I find that extremely frustrating. But no, it should be an exciting league finish. I know we talked about in the pregame, but Judge being injured could be huge for the league. Could be huge.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, if he goes on the IL, maybe Mark Minnis can cut him and then just picks. He can make another trade if he wants. All right, cool. Kyle, your first one back in a while. What are your closing?
It's great to be back. I feel like I'm still so much into baseball, always monitoring Fantrax, even though I'm so out of it. So it's fun to talk to you guys who are totally in the mix, both of you competing. I love the polite shade on Nick, because Nick, you are in a lower tier. You're in
on the bulletin board, Eric. I'm coming.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think
duly noted.
I think honestly, yeah, Mark and Brendan, I do think are in their own tier, but I think you, Eric, Nick, and Zach. I really think the three of you guys can go for it too. So exciting year.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
I love you.